Good evening, Titans. This is Mr. Simpson again, and the essential question tonight is how can you solve an absolute value inequality? So today we're going to be focusing on solving absolute value inequalities. But first of all, let's just look at a couple really simple ones here. If I have an absolute value of just the absolute value of x is less than 3. If we think about what this means, remember these absolute values mean the distance from 0 on a number line. So what this is really asking are what numbers are less than 3 units away from 0 on a number line. Well, if we look at a number line, we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, -1, -2, -3, and -4. And we think about, okay, the distance x is from 0 on the number line has to be less than 3 units. Well, that would include these numbers 2, 1, 0, but then also on this side. Well, we want all numbers, so we're going to put an open circle at 3, an open circle at -3, and it would make sense that it would be all these. So in solving an absolute inequality, what you're going to find out is that you have to rewrite, just like we did with equations, two inequalities. One will be exactly the way it's given to us, without the absolute values. And then if this is a less than, we're going to use the word and we'll x, and then we have to flip and change. Because if you notice, the value of x here is less than 3, but it's also greater than a -3. And again, the greater than is open towards the x, which indicates that it's greater than a -3. Alright, so we'll talk about the ors here in a moment, but that's just an example, a basic example of how we're going to solve absolute value inequalities. So here's the core concept. Again, if the absolute value is less than the number, and that number has to be greater than 0, then we have the two possibilities. We have what's inside has to be exactly the way it is without the absolute values, and then the second one, I usually would write this one second, is this way. Now, the reason they put it on this side is that way when we solve it, it's in the correct order. All right? Now, if it's a greater than, this will end up being an OR. We do the exact same thing, but it's an OR. And the reason it's an OR, if we have the absolute value of x is greater than 2, then the numbers that are more than 2 units away from 0 on a number line, well, if we want them more than 2 units away from 0, well, here is this way. These numbers going this direction are more than 2 units away. But then also the ones starting at a -2 going to the left are also. So again, this is an OR. So our two inequalities would be x is less than a -2 or x is greater than a +2. So now we're going to learn how to solve these